Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 12, Episode number 23. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Thanks for being back with us for this Wednesday, Steelers Nation. Dave, Steelers 1-0. We got Raiders coming up here in a little bit. We'll have a friend of the show, Vinnie Bonsignore, who covers the Las Vegas Raiders for the Las Vegas Review-Journal and Huddle Nation Radio in a little bit. But good to be back with you, Dave. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I think yesterday was probably the best Tuesday of my life.
I don't think that's an exaggeration. The way you were tweeting and talking.
Oh man, I just everything going smooth and traffic on the site just out of this world right now. And had the even as bad all 22 is still better than no. No,
worst
all
day
22. Yeah,
the best day of work.
Exactly. So I was just, I don't know, everything. It was just one of those days where all the stars were lining up, great and all like that, and it really made for an enjoyable Tuesday there.
I don't mean to jump in with both feet here, but I think your day got better when you, and credit to you were the first one to find it, that clip of Pat Freiermuth just walking. Who was that? Trey White, just out of the club, out of the neighborhood, out of the city. Oh my goodness, Dave! My jaw literally dropped when I kept seeing Freiermuth block. And if you haven't seen the clip, go on Dave's Twitter or Pat Freiermuth because he found your clip and commented on it. And wow, what a block!
The original TV version I posted on the Twitter machine saying, "Here comes Pat Freiermuth into your living room," and I had a feeling it was going to be pretty good on the all 22 side. I didn't know how good. Those are the kind. And Alex, you can relate to this, and I know maybe a lot of the listeners can't. There is just something when you get into all 22 and you see these certain Easter eggs like this that, just you tickle yourself. You really do. At least I do. I couldn't stop laughing. It's like he took Trey White out and he had some new speakers in his car. He wanted to show Trey White, just wanted to take him on out to the parking lot there. And, you slow some of these things down and zoom in. And even the referee over on the side judge on that side had to literally sidestep the train that was coming in that. And it's little things like that that really make what you and I do our job just so enjoyable. Obviously, we love the game. We love talking about the game, even in the TV form. But, man, once you dive into that all 22 tape, it's a different world, and you see things that you don't see in the game. And it's like watching a whole different game all again. So, yeah, if people haven't gotten a chance to check that out, do. And, Alex, I think you're going to be doing a film room on Pat Freiermuth and his probably mostly his run blocking from that game, right?
Yeah, and that'll be the first clip that I certainly show in that one, and the one I'll probably focus on the most. Yeah, I remember in training camp there was a run blocking drill, and they wanted Freiermuth to finish more and be more aggressive and run through the block. And I think he got that message based on what happened on that play on Sunday.
Boy, that was very George Kittle, college Iowa-like, was it not?
Yeah, how many cold showers did you need?
Oh Lord, you're
in the shower right now.
We get it. It's a defensive back. It's somebody that probably most people can ride out of bounds like that are bigger, sure. But it's that kind of effort and that kind of stuff that you see it in instances like that. You should start seeing the physicality and on other aspects of the game. So a lot of games obviously to go in Pat Freiermuth's career, we hope, and that effort. And I'm really interested. I've already obviously seen Pat Freiermuth went through all the offensive all 22 tape. I think there's a couple of good and bad snaps in there for Freiermuth, to be quite honest with you. And I look forward to your breakdown on it.
Yeah, by the way here, just getting an injury report news, we'll transition to Tomlin, some newsy type stuff, but according to Ian Rappaport, we knew that Gerald McCoy was injured. It's now a season-ending injury, according to Ian Rappaport. Not even sure what I think it's a knee injury, it looks like, but so no Gerald McCoy for this week for the Raiders and not for the rest of the season.
Right. They when we'll talk about this with Vinny hopefully later on during the show. They got banged up pretty good in that game Monday night against the Ravens. They've got a pretty decent laundry list of injuries that they're going to be coming into the game with there, and obviously on a short week, and that short week got even shorter, right? Go into, but that game, I went downstairs, and I hate, here we go off the rails, but it's all I'm blaming it on you.
It implies we were on the rails.
I went down several times in the first half of that game. Look, my wife loves living in Vegas. She reads and takes in everything she can about Vegas. She's very proud of Vegas. We're proud Vegas is our home. She was very excited about Vegas finally hosting a game with fans, the other night on Monday Night Football, and she was asking me little things. Obviously, she didn't watch it or anything. She watched the promo, wanted to see the promo. But as the game, she obviously knew I was upstairs and watching it, but I would go down and get a drink and whatnot. She'd say, and especially in the first half, she'd say, "How's the game going?" I'd say, "Man, this is a horrible game. It feels like a fourth preseason game, sloppy and just not an overly great game." Well, the thing got crazier as it went on, and fourth quarter and overtime. It ended up being a pretty good game overall. So I thought I'd just kind of relay that story to you. It went from me thinking it was a fourth preseason game to thinking, hey, I'm pretty in tune with this. And obviously the Ravens were playing, and you're hoping for a Raiders victory, and they managed to look like snatch defeat from the jaws of victory there at one point there. Then obviously came back to win the game there. So yeah, a banged up Raiders team coming into this game. The Steelers, on the other hand, seem to be fairly healthy. Alex, how's that for a segue?
Yeah, nice job. Good job. Podcasting skills there. Yeah, Mike Tomlin, his Tuesday press conference yesterday, went through the injury report and had the classic bumps and bruises associated with play. Just mentioned Robert Spillane could be limited early parts of the week with that shin injury he suffered in warmups and did not play, a late scratch in that Bills game. Said other veterans may be, limited early in the week, like Ben today, usually gets Wednesdays off, so no cause for concern there. So we'll see who else pops up, but the Steelers in a good place health-wise.
Yeah, well, we've learned over the years to kind of caution our enthusiasm when it comes to this, but Mike Tomlin did once again paint a pretty good picture when it comes to the health of this team overall, and he did, obviously mention that a couple of guys, might be limited on Wednesday just because of the veteran guys. So I expect there's going to probably be 5 or 6 guys maybe on this Wednesday injury report later this afternoon that, coach's decision or not injury related, I think is the official term for it. We'll see, maybe Spillane shows up on there limited with the shin or something like that. But at least, the early kind of feel we get from Tomlin here is that once again all these guys are going to be available to dress if needed on Sunday against the Raiders.
So what else did Mike Tomlin have to say, injury report aside? What else did he say in that presser that kind of caught your attention, Dave?
I guess kind of start with what he had to say about the offensive line. He liked a lot of the kind of what do you say, tangible things, like the physicality, like the demeanor, like several aspects, traits that they kind of were looking for there. But he did admit that they got to get better in certain skill set aspects there, and yeah, that obviously matches. I don't know how you felt going back through the offensive line tape with the All-22. I thought at first I'd find it kind of landslided to maybe a guy like Dotson being superior to the other 4. When I got through it, though, I had a feeling like, none of the 5 really stuck out positively, hugely positively. But on the flip side, I didn't think any of the 5 played awful. So it was kind of like a meh performance there. And I think that's kind of what you got, especially in the run blocking department there. I mean, obviously you can go play by play and pick out, some things there. Kendrick Green on the ground way too much. It's something we've talked about since he was drafted. That stuff's got to stop there, I think. But at least I came away thinking that, okay, it wasn't awful. All right. And in so many words, I think that's what Mike Tomlin was trying to tell us on Tuesday.
Right, and we spoke to that briefly on Monday, that the line was far from great, and they need to get better in all aspects, absolutely. But there wasn't the catastrophic mistake, the big mental breakdown, the bad snap. As Tomlin said, no penalties. I think just one penalty on the offensive line. I think
Dotson. Yeah, and that's probably what hurt his score there for sure. I don't know what PFF, how heavy they grade that kind of stuff, but that right. Probably hurt.
The Tomlin said he was expecting a lot of 3rd and 3s that turned to 3rd and 8s and 1st and 15s and things like that. And that was Buffalo, and they're more veteran offensive line getting the penalties. And so it wasn't Pittsburgh. So from that aspect, I think there were some positive steps forward. And as Tomlin also said, and I think the tape shows, this was a physical unit, an athletic unit. So you're seeing a lot of those baseline things. Technically and, consistently, those things have to improve and they have to get better just overall with their execution of things. But from a baseline foundational standpoint, are you playing clean? Are you playing physical? Are you showing your athleticism? Are you moving well in space? All kind of the hallmarks of what this offense line is trying to be rebuilt as. I think they did a good job for a very tough week 1 opener to play on the road in that kind of environment against a really good front and a good scheme that the Bills have.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think he said specifically there, we have to develop this, where is it here? I just lost my place on it. We have to develop the skill set. Where is it here? I love the physicality. I love the spirit in which they worked. I love the demeanor in which they worked. I love the physicality in which they work. The quality of our work has to get better. We have to develop skill relative to that position. We've got to develop individual and collective know-how and cohesion. But the will things, the intangible things that are very required in order to progress, I saw. So that was encouraging. Not that I'm looking for it, but that was encouraging. So we roll our sleeves up and get back to work this week. So, and one of the things I think we hit on coming out of this win there, was, you didn't play your best football on the offensive side of the on the offensive side of things, and not anywhere close to it. But you got out of the stadium with a win against a damn good team, and anytime that happens, that's you can't buy that, I don't think. Right. So you got a chance to kind of hone your skills a little bit. And look, this offensive line didn't work together especially left to right during training camp in the preseason. So we knew it was going to be a bumpy road. It's still going to be a bumpy road for the next couple of weeks here. But biggest takeaway was it's not great analysis, but it not being awful, I think, is fair analysis in that.
Yeah, it is. And when you can have a bumpy road and still come away with a victory, as you said, against a team like the Bills, then I think you're pretty happy. At least I'm pretty happy right now.
Right.
For me, Mike Tomlin, the biggest thing that stuck out to me, and I normally, of course, listen to it, and I think what Tomlin does in terms of previewing the opponent and talking about every aspect of them is really impressive. It doesn't get talked about enough, nationally. But he usually makes every team sound like the 27 Yankees. So I kind of just gloss over it a bit. But his comments on Raiders tight end Darren Waller were really interesting, kind of comparing him to Chase Claypool and just talking really the emphasis on trying to devise a plan to slow him down because he is going to be the Raiders' top threat, and had 19 targets in that game against Baltimore. And so Tomlin flat out said, you better be prepared to deal with 19 targets. And so that'll be really interesting to see how this team tries to slow down a really unique freak of nature in Darren Waller.
Yeah, and I've already got some minor thoughts on how they might go about doing that. We'll obviously talk to Vinnie a little bit about that and get his thoughts on what he suggests the Steelers do that way. And look, it's going to be a tough chore for sure when it comes to Waller. And I think Mike Tomlin, that is the weapon. I mean, we all got to watch that game the other night there, and it wasn't a surprise that was the guy that they were, looking to target the most, in the game there. And, even there was a couple other receptions, I think, that Waller kind of left on the field, if you will, with a couple of drops on top of it. So it's definitely something to pay attention to as we move forward and start previewing this game here.
It is. Speaking of Tomlin praising the offensive line for kind of their maturity, Tomlin also praised the maturity of the wide receiver room and praised Claypool and Juju and Deontay specifically for those guys kind of biding their time and showing their patience and doing the dirty work in the first half where the offense just didn't do much in general. And then guys that really stayed in the game and stayed in the fight was Tomlin's phrase and stepped up in the second half. And again, Claypool, Juju, Johnson, all with big plays in the second half to get this offense going. Juju, Claypool, big catches in particular on that final drive. Deontay Johnson, of course, the great touchdown. Grab probably one of the best catches a Steelers receiver will make this entire season. So really praise that young group for just staying focused and being ready.
Did we not praise the couple of the catches and a couple of throws by Ben Roethlisberger later in that game when we did the Monday recap?
We did. I said he was pretty poor throughout the game, but that last drive was his best ball. Making that throw to Juju down the right slot and the third down play on that crosser to Claypool were money plays.
Okay, because I guess somehow maybe that we'll have to go back and check the audio. I think that portion of us praising the Steelers at that part of the game got deleted or something. At least that's what my emails are telling me. So they're saying that all we did was bang on Ben Roethlisberger and the offense, and we're negative, and we should do Brown's podcast evidently. So when we get done with this, double check and make sure that portion of us talking about the nice catches that Juju and Claypool had in the game in the second half, and a couple of the key throws that Roethlisberger made. Make sure that's in the audio if you would, please.
We'll do. Yeah, I mean, but listen, the first half of that offense was terrible. I mean, it was just there was nothing going on, and it got better, but it didn't get like dramatically better. It still needs to be better even that second half offense. So, but they made the plays when they counted, and that was certainly closing out that game with that field goal was huge.
That drive for the touchdown was huge, and I think we said that the other day. I mean, as bad as the offense was, them being able to drive that short field after that 4th and 1 stop was a monumental turning point in the game. Because then you kick off, and then you get the 3 or 4 out there. Then you get the block punt, and ta-da! You're getting one you're getting a W in the in a stadium where a lot of people didn't think you're going to get one. So look, we have to look at this thing as objectively as we can, and the fact of the matter is the offense, except probably sans that one drive, was not good most of the. Wasn't good. For most of the day.
Right. But as we mentioned with the O-line, it was good enough to get the victory. And so you take it overall. Mike Tomlin also asked about Najee Harris playing every single snap of the Steelers offense. Not that there were a ton of snaps to play offensively in this one, but basically said, he's a highly conditioned guy and didn't seem to have much of an issue with it. And obviously that probably won't happen every single game going forward. At least let's hope not. But he's going to be a Le'Veon Bell 80% minimum snap count kind of a running back. That's why you draft him 24th overall.
And you didn't have a lot of long, sustained drives in that game either, did you?
Not in the first half. The second half, a little bit more. But, it wasn't like they were stringing together 15-play drives back to back to back.
Right. So that's another area. And, look, I mean, coming out of Alabama, and we have heard since he was drafted and all, a lot of people speaking on that, saying how conditioned he was. Here's their play count in the first half alone by possession. 5, 3, 6, 3, 4, and 1. I mean, there's not a lot of plays in there when your longest drive is 6 plays in the first half there. So what is that? 8 and 6 is 14, and 8's 22. And he wears 22. How about that? So, I mean, that's not a lot of plays to ask a running back to be in there for, especially when your longest drive is 6 plays there. Now, you get into the second half, you're coming out fresh there. You'd kind of expect him to be on the field probably quite a bit in those situations. 10 and 11 play drives, which, by the way, hats off to the offense, at least to coming out of points, because exclude the end of the game, two kneel downs. You had 4 second half possessions. You did go field goal, and then touchdown field goal, right? So at least the offense was able to do that. I think something to the tune of 21 and 13 is what 34. Not counting the end of game scenario there. So you're right. You're not going to see Najee Harris play 100% of the snaps every week. However, you're probably going to see at a minimum 80%. and against the Raiders this week, you still might be in the 90 percentile area, quite possibly. The sustained drives is probably coming off of a sustained drive. Might be a time where you see someone else like Benny Snell and Caleb Lodge get in there, but Najee Harris is going to play a lot of snaps this year, and I don't think that's a surprise to anybody listening to this podcast.
And I, for one, welcome it because he's your best player by far. The talent gap between Harris and then the other guys is so big that obviously you want to manage the snap count smartly. And if the guy needs a breather, you give him a breather. But the more I see your 22, the happier I'll be.
He had that nice run down there on one of those drives deep into the Bills. Nice cut to the outside there. What did you think when going through the all 22? There were a couple, I think, like outside zones where you think, oh man, they're just so close to cracking it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just not a lot of running room. I think there were a couple times where he could have been a little more, aggressive to hit the hole. Maybe he slowed up a little bit too much. But yeah, it's so tough to evaluate because that Bills O-line's tough. Ed Oliver was just wrecking stuff. And in pass pro, his first rep was bad. It was his first third down ever. They were mugging the A-gaps, and he got beat and a lot of pressure. But I think it got better the rest of the game.
Ducked his head on that early one, didn't he?
Yeah, I don't know if he ducked his head or if he just – I'll have to go back and look. I can't remember if he just was leaning a bit. He does have to get his head around quicker in routes. That one that Ben tried to check down to him hit off his hand. He's got to flip his head around quicker.
All right, what else did Mike Tomlin have to say that caught your eye?
I think that was kind of the bulk of it there. Talked about the outside linebacker snap count and said he didn't really care about being beholden to particular numbers for Watt and Highsmith and Melvin Ingram. Watt actually played the most snaps of all. Do you care about that? Followed by Ingram and then Highsmith third. But just said they want to get good production. They certainly did. And Tomlin also said, even on his own volition, that he's open to the idea of using all three outside linebackers at once, which is an interesting wrinkle.
Ooh, where's my Todd Haley jumping up and down gif? I don't know about, well, I do probably know about you in this situation. You go through that tape, and we knew it was going to be filled with goodness from the edge rushers there just on the TV tape alone. And if it sticks out that good on the TV tape, then it's even better on the all 22. That and Cameron Hayward as well too there, but. Man alive, Alex, thought maybe this trio would be good coming out of shoot if they could all stay healthy. I mean, just that one game alone that we saw Highsmith, the preseason game with Highsmith and Ingram, just really dominate the Lions. Gave you a good sense of where those two were. Obviously, you knew that T.J. Watt was probably going to be T.J. Watt. Now you probably didn't know exactly what version you might get out of T.J. Watt heading into that Week 1 game. They did not disappoint, and this just in the history of Steelers defense in general, they've had very good tandems of outside linebackers, obviously throughout the years. I mean, you can go down the list and name them. I'm trying to remember, and look, I want to kind of, it's hard to do because, man, when I grow up, I've decided I want to be Melvin Ingram when I grow up. I mean, just in the last 48 hours here. So I want to kind of temper my enthusiasm here. But just on that one sample size alone, and it's just one game, it's important to look at it in that context there. I'm trying to remember the last time the Steelers had a trio of outside linebackers as ferocious, I guess is the right adjective, I don't know, that they have right now, at least based on this one sample size of game.
Yeah, it's hard to think about three. As you said, there's a lot of good pairings in Steelers history, but for three of them, man, I don't even know. And there might not be a good comparison right now. So you're right, it is just one game, but there's no reason for me to believe this won't continue. Maybe not always at this level, of course. There are going to be ebbs and flows, and teams will start game planning and scheming to probably account for those guys the best they can. But, I mean, this is a great three, top to bottom, and you're going to keep these guys fresh and rotate it in and just playing, 100% the entire game. and that's going to be a big headache for offensive lines.
Why don't you tease verbally and you wrote about how the Steelers managed to get the prey. We talked. Look, they hardly had the blitz at all in this game, and they mostly sent 3 and 4 in this game. And anytime you can do that and get consistent pressure like the Steelers did in that game against the Bills, it makes it a lot easier on the back end. It just made for a great defensive performance overall. Kind of tease what the Steelers did in kind of disguising and sending that safe pressure, if you will.
Yeah, it's about creatively sending 4. So they didn't blitz too often, and they didn't, they never only sent more than 4 once, but there were a couple snaps where they were having Melvin Ingram as the off-ball linebacker loop from B-gap to B-gap with a nickel blitz, so either Trey Norwood or Arthur Millette come off the edge, and twice with Ingram, the 2 times they ran it, he got free through the B-gap and got pressure on both of those plays. And so that's not a new concept. I went back on my old film reviews, and in 2019 I did a film study on the same exact concept by Pittsburgh, but they were using Vince Williams as that B-gap blitzer. So with him gone and Devin Bush, Joe Schubert not being as talented blitzers, they're not having Melvin Ingram or TJ Watt. They both did it in this game, becoming that Vince linebacker role and blitzing off ball into the B-gap. And so it's a really good scheme and good execution when those guys obviously can move around a bit and not static at their outside linebacker spot, and they can basically rush into any gap, and it was really effective in this game.
There is one clip in there too, and I thought you did a great job of describing it. There where the waters part for Melvin Ingram in the A gap there, but yet the design is still with it. He had to see it. I mean, how could you not? I mean, your Porsche could drive through that, I think, Alex. That was such a big gap in the A gap there, but I think that speaks volumes because oftentimes when this defense has had some mistakes, sometimes you'll hear Keith Butler say some people not doing what they're supposed to do, and not carrying out their assignments and all like that, and not trusting the rest of the defense, and I thought that was a great example of how Melvin Ingram just stayed true to what his assignment was, and that was to go and look. It ended up being Josh Allen got that ball out quickly and all, and really didn't affect the play. Would Melvin Ingram have maybe gotten there and disrupted that pass had he went through the A gap? It's possible, but I just think that shows that the discipline, especially with a guy like Melvin Ingram, who technically hasn't been with the team very long at all, carries out the proper assignment there.
Right. It's the idea of do your job. And Melvin Ingram's job in that play is to hit the B gap. He's not responsible to go into the A gap. So, yeah, you go back and look at that one, and it's obviously easier in hindsight to say, coulda, woulda. But usually that hole isn't there like that. The center got tripped up and kind of lost his balance. But it was a good scheme the second time around. Ingram did get pressure, and it forced Allen off his spot and forced an incompletion. And so it's just a little wrinkle of creatively sending forward just to mix up the looks a little bit and make life that much tougher on Buffalo.
Let me tell you, if Alex Highsmith had some better shoes in that game, he might have a sack or two in there too, on top of it. And maybe if they would have called another holding a penalty or two, which they probably could have in that game, who knows how that impacts the game on top of it. But just I think we're going over. Maybe I'm going over a little bit over the top here on it there, but I'm just really, really impressed with the pass rush. And man, Grandpa Hayward. That might have been the best game of his career, and he's had some good ones too. I mean, the Colts game a couple years ago against that guard, and I mean, he's had some good ones. That might have been snap for snap his best game.
It's right up there, and he's the subject of my terrible take today. He just, as you like to use the phrase, Dave, wore left guard John Feliciano as a hat, and he just him and Aaron Donald are the two guys who can really make offensive linemen just look like ragdolls. And it's so hard to do because the NFL level, the talent level is so high. But Hayward's fantastic. I just sent you a clip of Alex Highsmith. We talk about his get off, and I think his first step, his explosiveness in this game were off the charts. And there was one clip I found going through the All-22 last night of just that first step and that explosiveness and his get off. I mean, the clip, you're looking at right now is him I mean, yards ahead of anyone else. And now that rush is a little bit different. I think he's got more of a speed rush there than TJ Watt does on that play. But, I mean, that first step, the explosiveness, is a big, big problem for offensive tackles.
I don't know if you saw the still. That's a great shot there. Did you go? I forgot. I didn't find it because it's not Game Pass. Isn't time stamped? Unfortunately,
I know. They don't even have down and distance anymore. They cut those out.
I know.
Anyway.
It's aggravating. But look, I guess beggars can't be choosy, right? But anyway, did you find the snap that he was ruled offsides for? I forgot to go look for that one.
I was watching it on the TV tape again when I went back through my charting. I haven't looked at it from the all-22 view to see if he was onside or not, but it was really close. It was like I said on Monday when I saw it live, I thought he was offsides, but when they showed the replay and when I watched it back on the TV tape, it's really close. He might have been onside there.
And then the still that I posted, I think last night there shows him on that bend. There, I mean, just the ankle flex, the ability to. I mean, that's the kind of stuff when you look at when you're scouting these guys as best you can on the college tape and all like that, especially these edge rushers that fit the Steelers system. There, you're looking for that ankle, the ability, that ankle flex on, and the ability to bend and really Matrix-like, I guess that's the best way to kind of describe it there. And there's a clip of him in that game of turning the corner there, and unfortunately he lost his footing. The gate's open. He's winning there, and he's probably going to get a sack, and it's probably going to be a 2.1 second sack or 2.2 second sack on top of a high quality sack. But he lost his footing on that play. But just little things like that, I think, that goes to show what high quality of a pass rusher they have in this guy. And don't want to take anything away from Bud Dupree those last 2 years that he had, but it took him a while to get to that version of Bud Dupree, which was a damn good one. But Alex Highsmith is just light years ahead of where Bud Dupree was during his first couple years in the league.
Yeah, I had said during training camp that Highsmith in year 2 is where Dupree was at year 4. And I think maybe it's almost year 5 right now, one game into this thing, because he's just making that jump. And what he showed Sunday against Buffalo is what he showed throughout all summer, training camp and preseason. And he's carrying it over into games to count against really good opponents. It's a great offensive tackle the Bills have in Dion Dawkins. And so to beat him the way he did, consistently run and pass, really impressive. Still occasionally a couple things to work on. He lost his contained once-on-one run play and let a play bounce. So there's still some things to work on, of course. But the talent and the jump and the improvement are significant.
He had a nice snap in there, too, in that run game, I think, for his TFL or close to the TFL there, where he just snatched the tackle right to the side there. And we saw that kind of it wasn't. I don't think it was a complete push-pull, but it was, to the one, especially that we saw, I think, against the Lions in the preseason there. But this was, you take a guy like he was going up against in who was it, Dawkins in that game, and kind of snatch him around like that. You've done something there, I think. So one of the things I was worried about with him is how was his run defense going to progress, and how was he going to progress as a speed to power type guy? Well, we're seeing signs of him definitely going in the right direction, I think.
What did you think about Devin Bush in this game? A very quiet.
I thought he played well. I thought he played really, really disciplined and well.
He moved well. He moved good.
He really did, and I'm glad you brought that up because I was going through it and I was thinking, man, it's not anything that's going to stick out in the stat sheet or anything like that. But I thought there was some instances there where he's having to at least on some running plays make sure that he mirrors the running back. And kind of flashes to one side to the other. And I thought he did a really, really good job of staying disciplined, especially when he was asked to play between the tackles there. And I think there's some other instances, too, of him dropping deep into some cover 2 stuff where it looked like he was moving well. I don't think we saw any kind of, and really he didn't need to, any kind of like sideline to sideline kind of explosion where you go, oh yeah, look, that knee's definitely back. But I was quietly thinking to myself as I was going through that, that wasn't a bad game at all for a guy first came back on the field after tearing his knee up in week 6 last year.
Yeah, I felt the same way. I thought there were a couple moments of the closing speed, just the last 2 yards or so, where you kind of saw that speed that he flashed, pre-injury, and so that was encouraging. But yeah, he was available. He had 10 tackles, and it was not an amazing, spectacular performance, but thought it was very good. And again, in the context, as you mentioned, that first came back from the ACL. Again, just do not take for granted the fact that he's playing 60-plus snaps in Week 1 after tearing up his knee last October. You got Zach Banner sitting on IR right now, and Bush is out there. Tie for the team lead in tackles. And so I don't want to overlook how impressive that journey has been, and just the fact he's been available since basically day one of training camp to get to this point is a testament to, I think, his work and his rehab and his commitment to football.
You can tell these guys read Steelers Depot. Got a question, Tomlin did, and you probably jumping up and down because I know you had already charted it. You used a lot of different guys at nickel. Was that just opening day rotation, or did you do it by design, maybe to help confuse Josh Allen? And what is that about? What is it about Trey Norwood that you have such faith in him? Tomlin went on to say we did it by design. We just got that level of respect for Josh Allen, yada yada, continuity that they have, which we talked about the continuity that they had on both sides of the ball before the game, and Tomlin says, and so not only to mix our calls, but to mix the utilization of people, I thought would assist us when you have guys that are position flexible that have a nice skill set in that regard, like Cam Sutton and Minkah Fitzpatrick, and now Trey Norwood. It allows you to have some interchangeable parts and do some different things and add some complexities that hopefully keep the dogs off of you. Well, the dogs were way off of them. Props to Mike Tomlin on that. What did you find in the charting, and what did you write about? I think I saw you play nickel some in that game too.
Felt like it. Yeah, let me give you the slot snaps here, and it was all hands on deck. Trey Norwood did lead the Steelers with 46 slot snaps, including starting that game and playing predominantly in the first half. Minkah Fitzpatrick second with 16. Arthur Millette third with 11. Cam Sutton fourth with 2. Hayden and Pierre picked up 1 as well. That was literally just empty sets, and they played more inside with linebackers walking out there. So basically Norwood, Fitzpatrick, Millette, and a little bit of Cam Sutton as well. And so it really was all hands on deck with Norwood, Fitzpatrick leading the way. But the title of the article was, who is the Steelers' nickel corner right now? Right now, everyone. So they're still figuring that stuff out. But it was a surprise to see Norwood play as much as he did. I
loved it because you know what? Now, I mean, you got enough of different people on tape right now. How does a team like the Raiders even plan for that right now?
Yeah, the question is Pittsburgh going to continue this, or is this their own process of trying to figure out who should be the full-time guy? I just wonder if this is going to become a smaller, more condensed list by week 4, or are they going to have this kind of rotation throughout the entire season?
What did you think of the one snap of the Tampa cover 2?
Which one was that?
The one with Sutton in the middle carrying way deep in a hurry, too.
I'm trying to think of when that one was. They did some safety rotations with Sutton. It was not cover 1, it was cover 2.
There's a Tampa 2 instance in there. I want to say it was. I'll send you the tape on that, but I figured that would have stuck out like a sore thumb to you there. But it was one of the deep passes down the middle of the field there. Good old Tampa cover 2 with Sutton being the one inside carrying deep, and he got depth in a hurry in that as well too. So see if you can find that.
Yeah, there was a lot of safety rotations in this one. I was worried about with Minkah being too static, with maybe other guys being static, but that was not a concern on this one. Minkah was dropping down. Edmonds played a lot of single high in this game, more than he's probably ever done before, and they did that with Sutton and Norwood, and even Joe Hayden was playing deep half and stuff like that. So a lot of inversions there, a lot of pre-snap and right at the snap safety rotations.
Look, there were times where I had to roll the tape back several times to think who is where. I mean, they mixed it up so much, so that says a lot. And once again, I thought Schobert played a good game overall for his first time. Some of the stuff he did, it had to do in coverage. I didn't think it was bad. I just everybody on defense overall, I thought really played a good game. James Pierre, I don't think you can undersell that pass breakup that he had on Emmanuel Sanders on that third down play that I think didn't a pump block follow that or.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it went Pierre, breakup, Hayward, sack, punt, block, touchdown.
All right. So just all together, I thought he did a good. I thought Mike Tomlin and Keith Butler did a great job of scheming that one up, and it'll be interesting to see what kind of carryover maybe there is from that going into the Raiders game. Anything else stick out from what Tomlin said?
I think it was about it for Tomlin. So just kind of going back with the all-22 here, and we've kind of run through, it informally so far. But any other thoughts in terms of what the all-22 told you, Dave?
There was down deep on that third down. I think that came after the false start and all like that. Ben Roethlisberger forced one over to the side. I think to Juju over there. Look, I'm all about throwing for the chains, so I don't want to be a hypocrite there. But if it, I really thought Ben forced that when he has Deontay Johnson coming across on the underneath dig, wide open against a zone look. I mean, if he hits Deontay in stride with that, maybe you don't get the first down, but at least you give your punter a little bit more room, in that situation. And if you watch the end zone view of that play afterward, Deontay knew it. Knew it was there as well too. So I think that was one thing I was interested in looking at. What did you think about the cover 6 on the miss by Josh Allen to Emmanuel Sanders in the first quarter?
Yeah, I think Trey Norwood just has to get his hips open earlier. The old saying of if he's even, he's leaving. And Norwood was just late opening the hips and lost Sanders there. And it should have been a touchdown in a big play. So he has a split safety look there, bracketing Diggs to the bottom with Edmonds over the top and the cornerback trailing underneath. And it was man to the top. And Norwood just has to play that better.
So, I mean, because that's, and those listening, cover 6 is quarter, half. And it was quarter on that side over there. No. We have seen the Steelers get beat in down the middle. I think the Ravens game a few years ago against quarter, half was how they scored on who was that against? I think Cam Sutton and Mike Hill. I forget who was on that side a couple years ago in that game. Was it John? That was the one to Brown. John Brown, wasn't it? Remember that touchdown? I think it was Flacco to John Brown. Anyway, quarter half on that side. Norwood's just got to carry that better, right? Is that because he's not going to stay on top of him in that situation?
Yeah, I mean, it might have just been – it was split coverage, and so it's a little hard to tell. It might have been a man-match kind of thing where, they ran a switch release there with Sanders, so he was number 3. Pre-snap became number 2 post-snap, and you got to carry 2 vertical on that because Fitzpatrick's carrying the new number 3 on that crosser, and I think number 1 was doing something else. And so you got to match that thing vertically. And Norwood did, but he was late reacting to it and got beat for it.
I wonder if Owen's going to include that. Is Owen doing a breakdown on the DBs?
He should be, maybe later this week. I'm not 100% sure.
I wonder if he addresses that one. It'd be interesting if he would.
I mean, I think it wasn't a blown coverage, nor just
no, it's just execution.
Yeah, just poor execution on that one. And I think he's just got to recognize that route's probably going to be vertical and that switch release and get his hips opened earlier.
All right, and I posted on Twitter, you're going to see that again.
Yeah.
And you're going to see it going the other direction, too. So,
especially with all the speed the Raiders have with Ruggs and Edwards, and those guys can fly.
Right. I don't know if you're going to see it this week. You might, but I would go after it again if I were the Raiders. So I would see if they learn from their and you're probably going to see it going the other direction on tape too. That's generally how those things kind of work there. Maybe out of a slightly different formation or personnel grouping there. But all right, what stuck out to you? What else have we? I mean, we've covered quite a bit here as far as the all-22 goes. But what else maybe stuck out to you?
Yeah, special teams, the pump block design was nice. We kind of had a good end zone view of that during the TV tape. They had a replay of it, but got to see it again on the all-22. The kick return, it's hard to say exactly what went wrong. A lot of guys on the ground, though. When he had 3-4 guys on the ground, Benny Snell, Millette, I think Killebrew, someone else. When you have all those bodies on the ground, generally you're going to allow a big return on that one. But as you mentioned, and I think as we talked about, UG3 tracking that one down and making that tackle and giving the Steelers defense some blades of grass to defend and hold them to a field goal was a huge play, as it turns out.
I tell you what, he's at least secured himself a helmet in week 2. Those kind of things do that. You have to kind of wonder right now, Robert Spillane going to get a helmet back right now?
Yeah, I think he will not over UG3, but Buddy, because Buddy was going to be the odd man out, it looked like. But I think Spillane will get the head over Buddy Johnson.
All right. What else stuck out to you? Anything else maybe offensively in the All-22? It's kind of mundane, wasn't it? Kind of blah on that side of the ball.
The screen game's interesting. They were doing a lot of two-way option screens, which isn't brand new under even Randy Fichtner before Canada arrived on scene. But a lot of it with linemen no linemen were blocking. They were just immediately going out, and so you had 5 guys going out to block on each side, and so that's allowing your big guys to run in space, and they were effective. You got a couple of nice chunk plays off of that. The only concern there is if that ball doesn't come out immediately, then your quarterback's in big trouble because you got the entire defensive line running scot-free. But a little wrinkle to that screen game to hopefully make it more effective.
And I think the one to Washington had Juju circling back behind Ben and had some, I think as you stated, I think some offensive linemen were going the other way, and I think Najee coming out of the backfield the opposite way with his hand up, of faking that. They got what they wanted there. They got the numbers. They got matched up the numbers, and then one for one guy that leaves you a situation where you have the wide receiver with one defensive back as the guy to beat in that situation. If you block it up right, they just unfortunately didn't execute fully on the blocks on that side. Everybody, I think Okorafor might have missed one. I don't know if that was the one that Trey Turner introduced himself to Tremaine Edmonds or not, but
no, that was the one to Deontay, the one for like 19.
All right.
But it's tough because remember, you can't. At least if I'm remembering the rule correctly, you can't go low on those blocks anymore as an offensive lineman. You have to stay on your feet. You can't block low outside the tackle or outside of the tackle box or tight end zone, whatever they're calling it. And so, you have to run and be able to hit those guys on your feet. And Turner, I thought, did Turner look good? I thought he played pretty well.
I thought he was average.
Okay.
You probably thought he played a little bit better. I did like I liked what I saw him on that one play, like I just mentioned, out in space where he sat Tremaine Edmonds down. It was nice to see him still pull. I don't think we're going to see a lot of that. Maybe we will. Pulling from right to left there. It wasn't once again, all 5 guys on the offensive line. It was not an awful performance. It wasn't a great performance either. So
yeah. I'll say better than I expected from Trey Turner is the way I should phrase it.
All right.
Yeah. Anything else? Any other final thoughts here on the All-22?
Man, I think we covered a lot there, didn't we?
Yeah, I'll say
the Claypool deep pass down the side. That's just classic. If Ben sees a safety cheating to one side or another, especially in a cover 1 or a cover 3 type situation, he's going to take that shot. And I forgot to see if he pre-snap if he gave Claypool any kind of sign or anything like that. We'll have to go back and check that. That's classic Roethlisberger, especially if it's cover 1 man, and if you know for sure the safety's going to be on away from that hash there, then he's going to take that shot. And props to Claypool. You got to make those contested catches, 50-50 balls like that. It's one thing that he did at Notre Dame that really kind of put him on the map there, and that was a big play. You got to have explosive plays in games, and they got it there.
Yeah, and that was against a top corner in Trey White. And so the best way to attack that football is to get it first. And Claypool did there. So, yeah, but I will say, by the way, just a very nerdy, stupid, small thing. Head athletic trainer John Norwick might be the biggest Steeler fan on planet Earth, man. That guy goes crazy. I just saw him a couple times, and he's just cheering and mad. And I don't know. That was kind of cool to see. I never knew that before.
The plays that Green left for, Mike Tomlin says they weren't injury, I kind of inferred it wasn't injury related. It did. I think someone emailed us and said they were at the game and they thought they saw Kendrick Green maybe getting a little bit of attention over there on the sideline. He did, because that was on that interception play that was called back. Green went over there diving over the trying to pick somebody off, I think, and landed, I think, on that right shoulder on that play. So still kind of unsure. Overall, was it just, whoa, you got to calm your, down a little bit there, because he did come out in that second half, man. He was really, really aggressive, and that's kind of the things that we've talked about gets him in trouble at times too, just being that overly aggressive. I don't know if it was just, hey, you need to settle down, or maybe he was, getting that, maybe he was out of breath. Maybe got the wind knocked out. I don't know. So don't have a good answer really of why he missed the 3 snaps in that game early in the second half.
Yeah, I'm not sure either, but he's healthy. He'll play. So, I mean, not a big concern there, I guess, ultimately.
I guess if he shows up today is limited with a shoulder, we'll know.
Right.
Because that would be the only thing. I don't think obviously I don't think it's going to cause a missed time or anything there. But it was curious him getting pulled out in that situation there overall. And I don't know if we need a green on the ground counter or not. But man, it's hard not to focus in on that stuff right now.
From the first snap of the game too. Now, he might have gotten tripped there or something, but yeah, you got to just, I mean, that you're going to be in those kind of environments where you got to be able to play on your feet and keep your balance, and so that's going to be key for him.
All right, man, that was enjoyable. I would do this for free.
All right, Dave. Here, let's take a break here. When we come back, we'll talk to our friend Vinnie Bonsignore. He covers the Las Vegas Raiders, the Steelers' Week 2 opponent, for the Las Vegas Review-Journal and Huddle Nation Radio. Be sure to follow him on Twitter at Vinnie Bonsignore. Let's talk to him, and we will return in one moment.
Okay, welcome back to the Terrible Podcast. It is Wednesday, and that means we have a beat writer in who covers the opposing team of who the Steelers will be playing. This week, the Steelers will be playing the Las Vegas Raiders, and we are pleased to have back on the show again. Last time we had him on the show, he covered the Rams, and now he covers the Raiders out here in my neck of the woods out here in Las Vegas. I'm, of course, talking about Vinnie Bonsignore, who covers the Raiders for the Las Vegas Review-Journal. You can follow Vinny on Twitter, Vinnie Bonsignore, VINNYBONSIGNORE. I hope I pronounced that right. Vinny, welcome back to the Terrible Podcast.
It's a pleasure to be here, guys. How are you?
Doing fantastic, and you were absolutely great the last time we had you on the show. You've been counting down the minutes here to talk to you today. Raiders obviously coming off of a huge win. What a wacky game that was the other night on Monday Night Football at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. Raiders coming away 1-0 win in overtime there. Let's start first, Vinny. What were your overarching thoughts coming out of that game? I mean, it really wasn't a great game the first half, really, I didn't think, for either team. But it got better, obviously, as the game went on. What were your kind of overarching thoughts coming out of that game?
Yeah, I definitely think that's fair. And by the way, when you said that I was on your show when I was covering the Rams, that was like the last game I covered on the Rams beat. The very next week, I moved up to the Bay Area. That just jogged back some memories right there. Sorry to derail that right there.
How do you like Vegas? Okay, yeah.
Oh, I love it.
Okay.
I love it. And I tell people all the time, I'm almost kind of sad that I don't miss California as much as I thought I would. And I love California. And I love the beach, all that. But it's just a really good quality of life here. Everything is the proximity to everything. I'm 10 minutes away from the practice facility. I'm 15 minutes maybe from the airport and the stadium, depending on the traffic. That was never the case in Los Angeles.
Gotcha.
So just that's a game changer. Plus, there's so much more to Las Vegas than Las Vegas,
right.
The Strip. So that's been a nice, pleasant surprise. So I'm really enjoying it. As far as the game on Monday night, you're right, fair that it was a little bit sloppy, especially for the Raiders in that first half. But my main takeaway, aside from the devastating price they paid in injuries, losing as of right now Denzel Good to a season-ending knee injury and Gerald McCoy to a season-ending knee injury. We'll find out this week about Marcus Mariota and Unique Ngakoue in terms of their injuries. But aside from that, all off season, the talk has been how much better can this defense be? It was almost implausible that it could be any worse than it was last year. That would have been catastrophic, or will be catastrophic if it is. So the question was, okay, they did some nice things on paper. They obviously bring in Gus Bradley, the new defensive coordinator, and his staff, and going back to OTAs and training camp, it looked different. Defensively, it looked different. The talent level looked different. The coaching looked better, all of that. But you had to see it on the field first. And I thought if you're a Raider fan, you should feel pretty good about what you saw defensively. And I point to three different numbers. One, they forced 2 turnovers. There were 3 sacks and plenty of quarterback pressures to go along with those sacks. And 12 times the Ravens lined up on third down, and of those 12 times, the Raiders defense won that battle 9 times. 9 out of the 12 times, they forced them to punt and get the ball back to the offense. Well, last year, the Raiders were third worst in the NFL in forcing turnovers. They were third worst in the NFL in sacks, and they were third worst in the NFL in getting teams off the field on third down. That's like 3 strikes, you're out. You can't survive being bad in those 3 categories. And for one night anyway, and I don't think it was a mirage at all, but for one night anyway, the Raiders were able to get it turned around in some key categories, and that's something that bodes well for them. And in addition to that, you can't ever calculate or there's no way to statistically decide timeliness, I don't think. I guess there's a clutch factor somewhere to be found in some analytical computer. But timeliness, they were terrible in that too last year. I just could eyeball that. The time and time again, when they needed to have something that make something happen defensively, they were never able to do it. But they were on Monday, especially in overtime when they forced the fumble to get the ball back to the offense. So timeliness was better too. So from a general overview sense, if you're a Raider fan, you got to like what you saw from that defense.
Absolutely, and the turnovers indeed were timely there. Max Crosby, boy, he was just getting after it, and going to have a lot of the Steelers' respect going into this week here. Not a big surprise what Darren Waller did, I don't think, especially with the game plan goes with him. I targeted something like 38 times in the game, and and obviously had all those catches and yards on top of it there. Mike Tomlin was asked a lot about Waller and what teams need to do to slow him down. Obviously, and Waller, I think, even had 2 drops in that game, so he could have even done a little bit more damage in that game on top of it there. We saw certain times that the Ravens didn't do a good job of maybe kind of chucking Waller off of the line. The Steelers are not going to be able to man him up all game, and especially with a linebacker or a safety most of the time. What is the best way? I mean, they move him around so much. It's like a wide receiver playing tight end at times there. Vinny, you've covered this team long enough now. I mean, what is the best way to defend Waller on Sunday in Pittsburgh?
Basically, you got to put Derek Carr.
Lead pipe.
Yeah, that, and you got to put Derek Carr on his back and make life difficult for him, because otherwise, I haven't seen a coverage that can successfully deal with Darren Waller. He's just too big. He's too fast. He's too physical. He's too smart. The game plan is designed to go through him. That's their bread and butter right there. So when you factor all of those things in, it's just a chore. It's really, really difficult. And I think what is going to make it even more challenging moving forward for teams is, as that game went on Monday night, Derek Carr started developing some chemistry with Bryan Edwards. Henry Ruggs made a couple of big plays. Those are 2 young wide receivers that the Raiders really need to emerge. And as the game went on, they did. And that's going to catch the attention of some teams now, because they know that they're going to have to deal with those guys as well. And in doing so, how does that change what you might be doing against Darren Waller? So it's just a really, really difficult matchup for anybody. I've seen that guy do so many things, whether it's a screen pass, whether it's a slant, whether it's a post, running against zones, anything. If you can't defend him one-on-one. He's just too big, too fast, and too good.
19 targets for Waller. That was the most by tight end since 2012. So, yeah, Waller's going to be a handful for sure. But you mentioned Derek Carr, Vinny. How would you evaluate Derek Carr? He seems like the most enigma-type quarterback in the NFL. The arm talenter had that great touchdown to Zay Jones to win it. But, up until that point, there is some inconsistency in his game. So is he the answer for the Raiders at quarterback? Where do you personally come in, and where do you think this organization comes in on Derek Carr?
Well, I mean, right now he's definitely the answer.
Sure.
There's trying to find somebody better is really hard. Like who you can find somebody better. Yeah, Patrick Mahomes is better. You know, Aaron Rodgers is better. I could name a bunch of better not a bunch, but a few better quarterbacks, probably like 9 or 10 or so. You know, and when you get down to that 9 and 10, a lot of that is, you know, what Sunday are we talking about? What performance are we talking about when you start talking about, you know, Baker Mayfield and Derek Carr and you know, maybe Dak Prescott and Kyler Murray, that kind of group of tier of quarterbacks. Those can be sometimes interchangeable, but you know, you probably can win with all of those guys, including Derek Carr. So I think that they're good with Derek Carr. I mean, you put it this way: how many quarterbacks could successfully pull off that 37-second drill that they had, in you know, to get it to overtime? You know, 37 seconds left, starting at your own 25, no timeouts, and they're able to
against the Ravens at that, yeah.
Right, exactly. You know, I'm not putting him up on a pedestal by any stretch of the imagination, but there aren't that many quarterbacks that are going to be able to have the wherewithal and the poise and the leadership to make that happen. But he's one of them, and he's done it plenty of times. Not that exact situation, but he's led a bunch of comebacks and plays pretty darn well down the stretch. The statistics show that, believe it or not, you know, and sometimes even I'm like, wow, he's really that good in that situation. Like you have to remind yourself that that's what he's capable of doing. So my being on this beat now for a couple of years, where I fall on that is, sure, you could go get a better quarterback. There are better quarterbacks than Derek Carr, but it's hard to go get them. I mean, it's in theory, yes. Actually executing it, good luck, because not a lot of those guys are ever going to be available.
Right.
Or do you want to you know, kick them to the curb and go draft somebody and then hope that they could be as good as Derek Carr? That's, you know, a challenge in itself. And I think where the Raiders are, where they want to go, the time and effort that John Gruden has put into, you know, developing Derek Carr and getting him to the kind of page where they can execute that 37-second drill the other night. Finding somebody that he could trust to do that, you know, from a rookie player or a new guy. I mean, I don't know. You know, that's hard. That's it's dubious to just assume that you're going to be able to draft somebody that's going to be able to do that. So for now, there's no question that he's you know, he's the quarterback for now and for the future. And I'll add this, again, going back to just my general assessment. I think this has been a case more. Why is he an enigma? I don't think it's his doing. I think it's more what the organization hasn't done for him. I don't think that Derek Carr has done the Raiders wrong. I think in some ways the Raiders did Derek Carr wrong. It's just the way it is. I mean, lots of different head coaches, different philosophies, talent overhauls, roster overhauls, but they finally have some stability with John Gruden now, and that was the whole point of giving him his contract and the length of it, to say, hey, let's get this thing right and do it the right way, even if it takes a little extra time. Let's try to get this thing done in a way that's going to, you know, maybe give the Raiders some sustainable success rather than fleeting success. And in the process, and this is kind of ironic, you know, Derek Carr has survived all of the overhaul, all of John Gruden's tinkering. It's been a total roster changeover, and the first guy that everyone thought was going to be on the first bus out of town, Derek Carr, is still here. And the consensus was, yeah, well, Derek Carr, or you know, John Gruden's going to go get his quarterback, his veteran quarterback, because that's what John Gruden does. Well, now he has his veteran quarterback. It just so happens to be Derek Carr, who he's been working with for the last 4 years.
Sure. Point well taken there. Absolutely. I love the draft for two reasons. One, to see what the Steelers do, and then two, to see what the Raiders do, because they're always unpredictable. They're always against the grain, starting with their first pick with Cleve. But I want to talk about first-round pick this year, Alex Leatherwood, and how he's done overall. I know week 1 against the Ravens, not his best game, but how big of a surprise was that? And just overall, you know, camp, preseason, and Monday night's game, how would you evaluate Leatherwood's play?
Yeah, I thought he played pretty well. There were some struggles early on. It was a pretty good defensive front that you know, he was playing against. So you know, there were some pretty darn good players that he was going against in a first game situation. So had some ups and downs, but I thought he got better as the game went on, and that's what you want to see from a young player. You know, even if you're getting beat a little bit or if there's some issues early on, are you going to stay with it, and are you going to continue to get better? And I thought Alex Leatherwood did. Was it a surprise? I guess kind of, based on, if you're listening to the Mel Kipers and the Daniel Jeremiahs of the world and the Todd McShays and those guys, it probably was a little bit of a surprise. And not knocking any of those guys because they do a great job. But what I always try to inform like my readers and listeners on the radio show is, a lot of the national people look at things from 10,000 feet up above the in their helicopter flying around, looking at this team, looking at that team, looking at players, and assessing the kids coming out and whatnot, and they do a good job of that. But when you're talking about a team, they're drilling to the middle of the earth, looking at things through their own lens for their own purposes, what they need, their scheme, their positional needs, and whatnot. And in the case of Alex Leatherwood, as I came to find out. And I have a little bit of a ace up my sleeve because my radio partner is Lincoln Kennedy, one of the great linemen in Raiders history, and he's really close with Tom Cable, the Raiders offensive line coach. So what Lincoln told me was pretty interesting story here, because on draft night you would have thought that they just haphazardly drafted Alex Leatherwood, and why would they do that? Well, backstory: 3 years ago, when Alex Leatherwood, I think was a sophomore at the time, was starting at Alabama as a true sophomore, Lincoln gets a call from Tom Cable, the Raiders offensive line coach, and they're close. And Tom Cable says to Lincoln, "Hey man, need you to go look at this young kid named Alex Leatherwood over at Alabama. Keep an eye on him. I like him. He's young. Keep an eye on him. Tell me what you think." And so from that moment on, A, the Raiders were linked to Alex Leatherwood, and B, Lincoln Kennedy, who's, trust me when I say, he doesn't hold any punches. This guy is as critical as it can get when it comes to offensive linemen, because that's his bread and butter, and he knows what he needs to see. He watched him and watched the development over the next 3 years. So this was a long time coming, actually. And what the Raiders wanted and needed, they didn't need a left tackle. They've got Colton Miller, their left tackle. Trent Brown obviously was kind of a disaster at right tackle for them the last couple of years, never really played. So what they decided was, with that first round pick, they needed to go get a right tackle, not a left tackle, but a right tackle, somebody that was going to fit in their zone run scheme, somebody that they felt was going to play football games for them and not be on the sidelines, hurt all the time, and somebody that they, that they thought had a bright future at that specific position. And that was Alex Leatherwood, as it turned out. And it wasn't just some recent type infatuation that they had with him. It went back a long way, as it turns out. So sometimes, when you're watching the draft night and you're hearing the knee-jerk reactions, you're literally only getting a glimpse, if that, of what's truly going on. So whether Alex Leatherwood pans out, we'll see. But this was something that the Raiders were in. This was a player that the Raiders were in on for a long, long time.
Vinny, are they going to get Richie Incognito back at left guard this week? Obviously, losing Denzel Good, they might have to hurry that process up there. What is that? We know Colton Miller's going to be at left tackle, Leatherwood at right tackle. I imagine Andre James at center there. What's the guard situation going to look like there for them? And also Kenyon Drake. I think he's dealing with a hammy or something like that. Is he going to be able to see a little bit more action with Josh Jacobs still dealing with that toe injury?
Yeah, we're going to find out. It's a short week too. That never helps. Right. So they're dealing with some issues, and they really didn't have a run game on Monday, and a lot of that was where Josh Jacobs was physically and where Kenyon Drake was physically, not having Richie Incognito, then losing Denzel Good. So there were some curveballs that the Raiders got thrown in that game that they had to adjust to. There's no doubt that they would love to get Richie Incognito back. As of last week, it seemed like he was targeting, or they were targeting in a comfortable kind of way, the Steelers as a game that he was going to be able to come back to. But as of right now, haven't gotten any updates. They were scheduled to practice on Wednesday. That got kind of canceled and turned into a little bit of a walkthrough, probably because of what they've been dealing with physically. So I'm not going to be able to get a look at who's out there on the football field on Wednesday. So we'll have to wait till Thursday to really get a better idea of where he is. But they definitely need him, especially after Good went down. They got a nice effort from Jermaine Ilamunor who they had signed just about a week ago or so. He stepped in and did a pretty good job. Has 20-plus starts in his career, so they were able to at least have somebody that had some experience to come in for Denzel Good. But they would love to get that guard position stabilized a little bit more with Richie.
Were you surprised Cleveland Farrell was a healthy scratch the other night? And, obviously with Gerald McCoy going out, he was more of a bit player, I think, overall. But, and the run defense, I think, with the Raiders wasn't awful. I think, the success rate against them wasn't great, but they did get popped for like 98 yards by the three Ravens running backs in totality there. So there were some minor run game issues. I know it's a lot of questions there, but were you surprised Cleveland Farrell got scratched? And what do you think about that run defense, especially that run defense moving forward, maybe definitely without McCoy being a part of it?
Yeah, and I think with the healthy scratch, we got to put that in quotation marks a little bit. He has been dealing with a back situation,
okay.
And he was on the injured list, the injury report all the way up till Friday. Then he fell off on Friday, so everyone assumed that he was good to go. But kind of what I'm hearing is that it might have flared up a little bit before the game, and so it seemed dubious to me because only dressing three defensive ends, that seemed like taking a little bit of a chance. I know Solomon Thomas can swing back out there to defensive end, but it just didn't seem like it was like he was 100% healthy, and he's just not going to suit up. I kind of read it a little bit differently, and doing a little bit of detective work, it looked like maybe that back might have flared up,
Gotcha.
Shortly before the game. So they definitely need to get him back healthy, and it looks like he's going to have to play due to wherever he is because of what happened with Gerald McCoy, and not sure yet on Unique Ngakoue. Yeah, I'm with you on the run defense. Overall, pretty decent. But there were a couple of issues with some run fits by their linebackers. Corey Littleton, didn't do his job on the 15-yard touchdown run earlier in the game, and a couple of bad angles by young safety Chavon Morrig. But it looked like they were able to get most of that straightened out as the game went on. And I would think that as the more they get out there and play, and the more they understand Gus Bradley's system and what they're trying to do, that should get rectified. But those things happen in a football game, and it's definitely not perfect. But if they can button that kind of stuff up, they'll be in a lot better shape defending the run.
I'm hesitant to call it a breakout game for Max Crosby because he's played well his prior 2 years, but certainly Crosby had a fantastic performance on a big stage, national media attention against the Ravens. What makes Crosby such an effective pass rusher? Yeah, and
breakout. It's because he this is a guy that did have a lot of success as a rookie. Didn't play well last year. A lot of it was due to some injury factors, and then also, as we found out later, we didn't even know what was going on, but he was dealing with some issues physically. And then also, I thought he played too much last year, and his tongue was dragging off the ground because of that, because they didn't have the depth that you need. So, but here's the thing, going all the way back to OTAs, this guy has been a man on a mission. You can see, like, he was just in tremendous physical shape. Like it was like, wow, this dude looks great right now. And I know, some of my readers would be like, well, they're professional athletes, shouldn't they be? Yeah, obviously. And it was never like he was in bad shape. I mean, he's a professional athlete, but there's even better shape to get to sometimes. And he got to it. And so it was like, you're just watching him in practice, just flying around. And not just that, but there was a lot of leadership, being really vocal, being somebody that accepted that challenge. He definitely was coming into his own. I don't think he was satisfied with what happened last year. As I'm sure anyone who watched Monday Night Football is aware, there were some lifestyle changes that he made off the field. So he's like laser focused right now. And the performance that he put out there, he was just named the Defensive Player of the Week for what he did. That's like, if he can continue to do that type of stuff, you're talking about Pro Bowl level player now. And if he builds off that and continues that, but what makes him so so good, I think. Number one, he's tenacious. Number two, he's got speed. Number three, I think he's refining his craft and, understanding different ways to do it. He's in great shape. And I think having Unique Ngakoue as a sounding board, as a mentor, as somebody to push him. I mean, I give Unique a lot of credit because from day one, he comes in and he's just propping up Max Crosby. He's talking about how, hey, we could be the best duo in the NFL. It was, I thought, really shrewd on Unique's part by saying, hey, I'm here, and in a way, I could threaten your playing time a little bit. If you look at it from that perspective, they signed a great defensive end that could cut into somebody's time. Well, as it turns out, it cuts into Cleve Farrell's time. And Max Crosby was, could have been his time as well. But here comes Unique Ngakoue saying, hey, all good. We're going to get this thing done together, and you and I are going to be one of the best duos in the league. And I think that if you're Max Crosby and you hear that kind of praise from a Unique Ngakoue, how tall are you walking at that point? Like, wow, okay, if he believes it, I'm going to believe it even more. Mm-hmm. And so it pushed him. And I think now there's a healthy competition, too, between those guys because they want to have a party at the quarterback and they want to rack up sacks, and they're going to push each other in that regard, too. A little healthy competition in terms of who's going to get more pressures, who's going to get more sacks. So I think it all kind of is coming together for Max Crosby. And if that is a sign of things to come, that's a game changer, along with Unique Ngakoue as a pass rush, because they were terrible rushing the passer last year.
My last question for you, I'll turn things over to Dave. This is a big, broad question, so I apologize in advance. But if the Raiders season doesn't go the way they wanted to, what happens to Mike Mayock? What happens to John Gruden? Are they on the hot seat? I know Mayock, I think he made a reference to, like, if we don't win this game or we don't turn things around, my job's on the line here. So, I mean, is that an accurate assessment? And could Gruden be in any sort of jeopardy given that 10-year contract he signed?
I think I think that if the season were to go sideways, if there was somebody that would be vulnerable, most vulnerable, it would definitely be Mike Mayock, and I think he understands that and knows that. I think there's probably levels of sideways, in terms of John Gruden. Like if they're healthy and they finish 3-14 or 4-13, still kind of weird for me to talk in those numbers for the 17th game. If it looks really, really bad, at some point you're going to have to look at the coach and the leader, the football leader, and that's what he is. He's the leader of the football side of things, and say, hey, man, what's going on here? Are you up to the challenge? This doesn't look good. This is supposed to be much better in year 4. Then if it's that kind of a season, yeah, I mean, everybody's going to be under scrutiny. I mean, I don't think it's going to be. I think what you saw on Monday night offered a glimpse of where this team is. That's a pretty good team that the Raiders beat on Monday night. And I'll say this, if that was the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Raiders played that kind of a game and struggled and had to go to overtime and it would have, even that win would have looked different because you would have looked at the opponent and said, what? They shouldn't be struggling against a team that bad, but it was not struggling, I should say, but it shouldn't be as competitive a game against a team like that. Whereas when you look at the Baltimore Ravens, would you be shocked? I know you guys are Steeler guys, and that's your division rivals. But would you be shocked if they won the division? Probably not, right? No. It's the Baltimore Ravens. Would you be shocked if they got on a roll and got to the Super Bowl? I wouldn't necessarily be shocked. It'd be a little bit of a surprise, but I wouldn't be shocked. So that's a good team that they beat, and so I think it gives a little bit of a glimpse of what they're capable of doing and what might be coming. But all bets are off if this thing goes sideways.
All right, starting to wrap you up here, Vinny. I know it's early in the week here. This kind of feels like a flip of the Steelers game last week here. Everybody down on the Steelers, 5.5 to 6 point underdogs going into Buffalo. Kind of a lot of people picked against the Steelers for good reasons. Alex and I both did. They pulled out the win there. Now you have the Raiders coming all the way out to Heinz Field. The Steelers home opener. Raiders, I think, as of after that game the other night, 5.5 point underdogs? I know it's early. You don't have enough complete injury report on the short week here. A, what is your feel for this game? If you want to throw out a score prediction, that's fine. B, tell people how they can listen to more of your analysis the rest of this week on your radio show out here in Vegas.
Yeah, we are on 4 to 6 p.m., 9:20 a.m., a.m., 9:20 a.m. You could also listen to us. They stream it live on Raiders.com and then LVSportsNetwork.com as well. So 4 to 6, Monday through Friday in the huddle with Vinnie Bonsignore, and Tuesday through Thursday, Lincoln Kennedy joins me. He's the color analyst with the Raiders, former Raider great. I appreciate that. Also, you can download the app Vegas Nation or go to vegasnation.com. That's the Las Vegas Review-Journal part of things to read the stories and all that good stuff. Appreciate you. Let me put that out there. I think this is just one of those. It's just set up as a tough challenge for the Raiders. The short week, all these injuries that they're dealing with. Don't know exactly where Josh Jacobs and Kenyon Drake are physically. It's kind of all setting up for probably a struggle on Sunday. I think that if they can keep it competitive and go in there and fight and make it respectable. I hate moral victories and even talking about that, but given the circumstances, that would be an honorable Sunday for them. Could they be flying high after Monday night's win and go in there and surprise some people? I'm not ruling that out that either. I think this defense is pretty good, and I think it's going to continue to get better. And if they could get pressure on Big Ben, I think that if they could get the kind of pressure they got on Big Ben as they did on Lamar Jackson, that might look different too, because I don't think Big Ben's got it in him anymore to be able to break off those 40-yard runs, 30-yard runs that a guy like Lamar can. So it might be a better matchup in that regard. But it's tough to see them going in there and winning. I think if they can keep it close and give maybe Daniel Carlson or Derek a chance to pull it out in the end, that's what they're going to probably be hoping for.
All right, and probably you'll give out a score prediction later in the week, so our listeners can tune in to some of your shows and your work on the Las Vegas Review-Journal as well too. Vinny, Alex and I would keep you another hour and a half if you'd let us, but unfortunately that's probably not a wise thing. But look, always great to have you on, no matter which team you cover. Glad to have you out here in Vegas covering the Raiders. You do a great job. We were excited to have you back on as well. So we'll send some of our followers your way to hit you up on Twitter the rest of this week as well too. So Vinny, appreciate your time. Appreciate having you back on the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.
Thank you, Vinny.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
And again, our thanks to Vinnie Bonsignore. You can follow him on Twitter at Vinnie Bonsignore. He writes for the Las Vegas Review-Journal and Huddle Nation Radio, and has his podcast he does with Lincoln Kennedy, which is awesome. That's Zach Vanderstad. So that's a cool little Steelers tie in there. But thanks to Vinny for his time.
Yeah, I look forward to one of these days. I'm going to text him and go have lunch with him over there at Henderson. Maybe say I'm going to try to get myself a tour of that facility.
I know that stadium looks incredible.
Yeah, the stadium, and then the practice facility is supposedly awesome out there in Henderson as well too. So just a good dude, and we had him on a couple years ago when he covered the Rams. He did a good job, and so blessed to be able to call on him to have him preview the Raiders. I think he gave a very fair assessment of them as well too. So I look forward to maybe getting more of a score prediction of him, maybe on the Twitter machine or on one of his columns later in the week there.
All right, Dave, want to talk about one of our new sponsors of the Terrible Podcast. That is our friends over at Prediction Strike. Talked about them last week. And in terms of stock reports, we have an article up from Ross McCorkle, the Steelers stock report, and whose stock should we be buying on Prediction Strike?
Yeah, Alex, I'd like to congratulate you. You and I now own stock in Najee Harris and Pat Freiermuth. How about that?
Okay. Good deal.
The good people at Prediction Strike set us up an account, put some money in there for us to play with to get a look at this thing, and it's quite awesome. And look, if you're into kind of a different kind of fantasy, and if you're into earning real money, and if you're into the stock market, you can have all of those things kind of rolled up in one with Prediction Strike. It's a fantastic interface there. I logged in and spent some time with it the last couple of days there, and like I said, I bought 5 shares of Pat Freiermuth stock and a share of Najee Harris stock. So, Alex, after they have big games, we might want to get together and think about selling that and making a little bit of making a little bit of money there. But look, you ever heard of someone say, "I have had stock in this player since day one"? Well, now Prediction Strike makes that a real possibility. Prediction Strike lets fans get closer to the game than ever before by buying shares of the players they love and really truly believe in. When the athlete performs well, when they grow into their potential, their stocks rise, and so does your portfolio. The world's one and only sports stock market where you can buy and sell shares of your favorite athletes, build portfolios, and make real money using everything you know about the game. You can check out the Prediction Strike app on the App Store and start investing today. They make it real simple for you, Alex. Simply visit PredictionStrike.com to create an account, then deposit funds to buy, sell, and hold shares of your favorite players just like you would real stocks. The value of the players will change based upon game performance and user demand, and you can trade your shares of players at any time. Like I said, I've been on there. I love it. I'm going to be monitoring some players going forward here. Like I said, Alex and I now own shares in Najee Harris and Pat Freiermuth. Here's what you do. Get started, go by downloading the Prediction Strike's new app at the App Store or by visiting PredictionStrike.com. Then you sign up with promo code TERRIBLE, that's terrible, to receive a free share of an athlete when you deposit $20 or more. So go to PredictionStrike.com today, use promo code TERRIBLE, and when you do, you will receive a free share of an athlete when you deposit $20 or more. So it's really that simple. Check out the site, check out the interface. It's absolutely fantastic, and we're pleased as punch to have him as a new advertiser on the Terrible Podcast, and it's a great product on top of it.
Absolutely. You said a different kind of fantasy, and that might be a good thing for us because our regular fantasy football teams, I don't think, did too well in our Depot League in Week 1.
Yeah, our very own Alexa Delarocco beat me. I think she cheated. That's how she did it. She beat me pretty soundly. It wasn't even close. I didn't even look. I was so embarrassed I didn't even stay logged in very long. How did you do?
I'm pretty sure I lost. Let me pull up my league now. Let me see. I only won one of my leagues, and it was not the Depot League here. So I'm trying to think who beat me. I think I drafted Saquon Barkley, and Barkley. I'm regretting that decision. I feel like here.
Forget who you even played. Did you play Michael? You didn't play Michael, did you?
Let's see. Let me pull it up here. I lost by over 50, so that's bad. Daniel, former Depot contributor, Daniel Valente. Yeah, he kicked my butt pretty good. So Prediction Strike making me feel better about what I did there Week 1.
All right, so we shouldn't quit our day jobs, right?
Yeah, definitely not. All right, Dave, let's get to some reader emails and close out today's show.
Absolutely. And let's see here what we can start with here. Pull it up.
You said there was some angry emails in here.
Yeah, they're quite, well, a lot of them are angry because I guess because we picked against the Steelers, and B, because of our wrap-up, I guess we didn't send the Steelers to the Super Bowl after their win over the Bills there. Charles writes in, guys, Jordan Berry had an impressive day in Week 1, 50-yard average on 8 punts. Do you think the Steelers made the right choice? Also, I still think the offensive line will make Harris reaching 1,000 yards and 50% run success rates difficult over the season. Let's hope I'm wrong and he has a great day against the Raiders. All right, you want which you take the Jordan Berry question?
Yeah, I mean, it's 1 week. I'm not going to overreact to any one-game sample size. I mean, Berry had that great 62-yarder in overtime and, helped Minnesota out, and Harvard was uneven was the word Matthew Mark's using. That's a good word for it. So I'm not going to make any declarations, though, off of just 1 week.
And as far as the offensive line making Harris reaching 1,000 yards, 50% run success rate, I'm going to give Charles the same answer. It's 1 week. Look, it's got to get better than it was. 6 of 16, I think, successful run rate against the Bills. So you got out of there with a win. You did so with a run success rate less than 50%. Glory, glory, hallelujah. But it was just 1 week. We expect this running game, I would think, to get better as time progresses. How quick it can do it, it would be interesting to watch there. I just got to give the 1 week answer right here, Charles. Let's look at this thing about the quarter poll after about 4 games in here and see if we're seeing at least some increase in the play of the offensive line, what the success rate of Najee Harris is, and go from there. I think that's fair, right, Alex?
Yeah, I think that's 100% fair. The fairest way to look at it.
All right, Bryce writes in, got a comment and a question. Alex, I've got another Dayton Flyers sleeper for you to do a scouting report on, and that is free safety Brandon Easterling, FCS All-American, who projects as a box safety in the pros, good ball skills, speed, football IQ, and will support the run. Please do a write-up on him. Well, one thing, Bryce, look, and I think Jonathan and a couple of other guys are doing kind of the in-season kind of looks here. So we'll try to get, one thing we're trying to do is get at least familiar with some of these guys earlier than we would during the season. Alex and I don't have a lot of time to watch tape other than Carson Strong.
Other than Carson Strong. You make time for Carson Strong.
But we just, look, we're watching the games on Saturday, obviously, and trying to get ourselves acquainted. So we'll definitely, Jonathan, I know Hype Tritter listens to this, so maybe he'll surprise you and do something on Brandon Easterling there, but we can't really make any promises in season with all of our focus, obviously, being in the Steelers. But we'll make sure to give you Carson Strong updates throughout the season. You can count on that. Second question, knowing the personnel of the Steelers, what do you think are the best defensive schemes for them to employ to stop a tight end like Darren Waller? Well, we asked that very question to Vinnie that you just heard in the interview there. We'll have further analysis on this, especially on Friday, I think, after we look at some more of the tape there. But and Mike Tomlin, I think, said this on Tuesday, right, Alex? You're not going to complete, and it's kind of our thoughts that we had on Stephon Diggs. You're not going to shut this guy down. You just got to have to minimize the damage that a guy like that does against you. I mean, let him have 9 catches for 69 yards. As long as he doesn't get in the end zone or bust you for a game-changing explosive play. As far as the schematics go there, you're probably not going to want to single him up a lot in some man-type coverages. And also, you're probably not going to have the same guy following him around because they move him around so much as well, too. So, Alex, you're early. I'll only hold you to this unless you're wrong on how to properly cover Darren Waller.
Those are the depot rules. Only remembered if I'm wrong. Yeah, I mean, as you said, it's not about shutting him down. It's about slowing him down because you can't shut this guy down. With the targets he's going to get, probably 15 plus in this game. It's about being multiple, not doing one thing. I mean, you treat him like, obviously they're extremely different body types, but like a Tyler Boyd, where you have that slot guy that you're going to bracket, you're going to double team, you're going to play inside leverage, outside leverage on, and try to just to take away and squeeze as much as possible. So I think you probably see a lot of Minka on him, considering how much he played in the slot. I do not want to see Trey Norwood on Darren Waller for multiple reasons. Most of them are obvious, I think, but a lot of Minka, a lot of bracket coverage, and a lot of different looks. So it isn't the Raiders getting comfortable with one look they're anticipating.
I agree, and we'll have further analysis on this on the Friday show there. David Rickards writes in, Chestnut checkers. Disclaimer, I might have my tinfoil hat on too tight. It just occurred to me that the Tomlin and company may have been playing a deeper mind game in week 1 than we realized. He goes on to write, Trey Norwood, surprisingly impressive performance for a 7th rounder. James Pierre, most likely flying under the radar for opposing offenses as an undrafted free agent. Cam Sutton's potential of being overlooked due to his dime roll in 2020. The ability of the front 4 depth to bring pressure so they could drop linebackers into coverage. This could have been overlooked by the Bills due to Tuitt's absence. Number 4, the departure of Nelson and Hilton created considerable perceived weaknesses in the secondary. He goes on to write, is it possible that the Steelers were trying to draw the Bills into underusing their run game? Josh Allen always makes plays with his legs, so you can't discount that. But underusing the running backs could be considered a blunder. Could have assisted the defense by making Buffalo's offense predictable in that aspect, especially with the 10-point lead at half. He goes on to say, if you know they're wanting to go empty, let's see if there's a question here. The importance of winning game, blah, 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 narrative. Upon further consideration, I can't recall a better regular season win for Tomlin. I really can't either. And Alex, it's been a couple of days. That might have been. Look, I mean, they've had some great regular season wins that we highlighted. Look, Charlie Batch in 2012 against the Ravens was one. But as far as a Ben Roethlisberger quarterbacked win in the Tomlin era, that we might have saw it the other night or the other day in Buffalo. Maybe the Christmas game against the Ravens with AB extending the ball into the end zone against 2 or 3 defenders to take the lead. With the losses of Cleveland and Baltimore, it certainly sets table for success. Sorry for the lengthy email, but it's been a lengthy offseason. Steeler nerd unity. Danny Smith forever, he writes there.
Hey.
I don't know if we really got a question in there. But Dave, look, I mean, it's certainly great to be excited. Okay to be excited. A big win against Buffalo, but I think everybody's wanting to point fingers at us and say, "Aha, you guys 9-8 prediction. They're going to show you." It's a long season, people. It was one game. It was definitely great to see them come out for a win. Here's the thing: you can't turn around and slip up against a Raiders team this week,
which has been known to happen. You get in confidence in some of these Raiders games in the past decade plus and hasn't always gotten the result that you wanted. So, yeah, to the point about the Bills and them not running the football, I mean, that's kind of the Bills' identity. I was a little surprised they didn't run it more against some of the Steelers' dime personnel and stuff like that. But, I mean, they're a pass-first team. They're running through Josh Allen's arm, and so they're going to throw the football a lot. So that's not a big surprise. This was the best Week 1 win Mike Tomlin's ever had. The best regular season win ever, though. I think that's too far for me. I think, the Ravens game, beating the Patriots, that Tom Brady game a couple of years back on the Hayden interception, the Packers win on that last-second touchdown to Mike Wallace, I think all rank higher for me, but this was obviously a very quality victory.
Absolutely. It's got to be top 5, I think, regular season all time. If not, it's close.
It's right up there.
When it comes to that. Zach writes in. Zach, by the way, lives over there in Salt Lake City, Utah. Hope to go visit that maybe this next off season here, that area. Zach writes in, wanted to pass along an observation. Oh, this is the one we got. He was at the game in Buffalo and had a good view of the Steelers sideline. He says, I've heard an assumption that Kendrick Green was benched for a few plays for a skirmish with Buffalo players. However, it was clear when he came off, he either had the wind knocked out of him, took a shot of some sort to the chest. He was short of breath and clearly needed to get his wind back and was attended to by the medical staff. Obviously, he entered the game shortly after, but wanted to share that observation for clarity's sake there. All right, well, maybe that was the reason there. It was kind of like I did say. He exited the game after diving over, I think, trying to clean somebody off on that interception. I think there, and then next 3 plays he was out of the game there. So Zach, I mean, that's the best description I think we've heard so far. So
yeah.
For now, we'll roll with it. Podcast question. There were 2 or 3 short passes last week to Deontay where it seemed Ben expected him to take a different angle than he did. From your observation of the game tape, do you have any opinion on if Deontay is taking the wrong angle on those coverages or has Ben making the wrong read? Notice the same miscommunication a few times last year, and every time after the incompletion, Deontay looks back to Ben like a dog with his tail between his legs. Of course, quarterback and receivers aren't going to be on the same page on every play, but I have noticed a trend with Deontay, so would be curious on any sight or opinions from yourself and Alex. Thanks. You guys are the best in the business, he says.
Well, I'm not sure what plays you're referring to. I think about the first third down on that little pivot route that Johnson ran that Ben missed on, and Ben spoke with the media today and seemed to take the blame for that one. That did feel like it was on him. So it's always hard to tell, what the miscommunication is. Sometimes a lot of times it is the receiver, but I thought on that third down it was more Ben just missing the throw. But without referring to anyone in particular, I'm not exactly sure what examples to talk about.
Yeah, and look, I think Ben had a great observation during his press conference on Wednesday morning, talking about how Deontay coming back in that game after having that knee banged up, and really all the wide receivers in general staying focused. They weren't obviously heavy involved or making plays early in the game, but when crunch time called for it, especially a couple of drives there, as we noted, Ben made some plays, and receivers there were there to make some plays, and basically stayed in the game, and that was a big difference maker, especially on a couple of those drives in the second half, most notably the touchdown drive.
Yeah, for sure. So good comments there from Ben. And yeah, it is week one. It's a lot of newness. It's a loud environment. And so those things, can and will and should be cleaned up.
Let's end with this. Todd Bays writes in, love the coverage, guys. By far the best out there. Thank you for that, Todd. He says, I know it's only week one and certainly don't expect Najee to play 100% of the snaps for an entire season. Obviously, Harris' snap count is unsustainable over 17-game season. He says, what speaks bigger about lack of running back rotation? 1, injuries to McFarland and Snell in the preseason. 2, lack of development in Snell. He, hate to see a fourth-round draft pick not even get one snap as a backup. Number 3, poor personnel management. And he says, not complaining after a win, but certainly a few plays where Snell or Ballage could have given Harris a breather. He says, I realize I am making a big deal out of it based off one game, but curious as your thoughts, as you just don't hardly see that in today's NFL. Thanks, guys. Todd, I'm going to use it's the one game sample size on you here, and let's not overreact to anything that we saw, including snap counts for one rookie, Najee Harris, and who did or didn't come in. And I don't think it's an indication of anything other than they felt comfortable with leaving Najee on the field, especially the way the first half possessions played out. Mm-hmm. Could they have done maybe a better job at getting a guy like Snell or Ballage in the game, maybe in the second half for even just a snap or two? I suppose. I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens this week when it comes to Najee, who the next back is in the game, and kind of go from there. I'm hesitant. I've seen it far too many times, snap judgments off of one game. Now, the defense was spectacular. You're not going to get any argument from there. But everything else right now, I'm going to use the excuse it's a one-game sample size.
I get the point that you have to be careful and you don't want him playing 100% of the snaps every single time. But I'd be careful in assuming that Harris needed a breather. I mean, this is a guy that's a super highly conditioned running back. And so the idea that he was tired out there, definitely need to be pulled or something like that, I don't know if that's accurate. And the way they would do with Le'Veon Bell, and Ben's talked about this in the past, is that if he needed a breather, he would just call a pass play. And you're not running the football, so it's a little less exertion. So nothing to me that showed that Harris looked tired or worn down, and hopefully he's communicating that well, and the coaching staff is keeping an eye on that. But, man, you drafted this guy to be your bell cow, 24th overall. I want to keep him on the field as much as, humanly possible.
Yeah, I would agree. Brett Niles written in a book for us here. So let's see. Let's take. I don't have time to read all of it. I'll read one of the questions here. He has the performance against the Bills raised your? Oh, one of the things he writes here. He says every time you and I predict the Steelers' loss, they win. He says, do we have any proof of that? We don't keep track of that stuff. I mean, as long as Alex has been the full time, on this show and all, we do the picks weekly. So if you want to go back and look at those by week and get some sort of record, I mean, have at it. Look, our analysis is our analysis, and sometimes our analysis leads us to pick against the Steelers, and if that makes us Browns fans or Ravens fans or idiots or what have you. I mean, evidently Brett doesn't like that. So okay. Let's see. Second, has the performance against the Bills raised your prediction? For the record, are they potentially a 10 or 11 win team? I mean, Brett, do you really want us to change our? That would mean that we don't have kind of that much confidence in what we had to say to begin with there. I mean, look, they beat a good team in Buffalo. I don't know what else you want Alex and I to say when it comes to that. Or could they potentially be a 10 or 11 win team? I guess the short answer to that question is yes, they could be, especially when you win a game that most of us didn't have them winning. So if you win that game and yet you win the other 9 that we think they might be able to could win, then 9 plus 1 equals.
Let me take my shoes off. Didn't know there'd be math.
Carry the 1.
42
minus 30. You get where we're coming at. Hopefully, Brett. Look, I mean, let's. It's week 1. They got to win against a damn good team. Now let's see them get a win against a team they should beat at home in the Raiders, and then let's see. I mean, got a couple of tough games. Let's see where they are at the quarter turn point, and then come back at us and say, "You guys ready to raise your prediction?" Alex, have at it.
Yeah, no, I understand what Brett's asking. I'm just teasing him a little bit. I'm actually, personally, I'm pretty good at the reverse jinx for Pittsburgh. It feels like when I do pick against them, they do seem whenever I pick against them, they always play really bad for the first half, and I feel confident. Okay, I think I got this one right, and then it's they flip the script in the second half, and that's what happened on Sunday. So I went 10-6 last year picking Steelers games for whatever that's worth. I tracked them. They're my Sunday predictions, but yeah, it is just one game. I don't even think about season predictions anymore and changing win-loss records. That was my prediction. That's what it is. We'll see if I'm right or if I'm wrong. Who really cares that much in the end? But it was a big win. And so, yeah, could this be a 10, 11 win team? That's certainly possible. But again, this is a tough end of the schedule, and this team has to play better in December and January. This team started out really hot last season, and then it got really bad at the end. So this team needs to show that they can finish as well as they've started in past seasons.
He goes on to write, if the defense is better, is it conceivable that this team could win a Super Bowl in the same way that the Ravens did several years ago, namely with an elite defense and an average offense? Yes.
Yeah, it is conceivable, but usually in those playoff games, your offense really has to come alive if you're going to consistently compete with the best quarterbacks in the AFC.
Look, my motto for a team that needs to win the Super Bowl year in, year out is you have to have an offense that can run the football to some degree of success. Not have to run it a lot, but you got to have that success rate around 50%. B, you better have an adjusted net yards per passing attempt number of at least 6 at a minimum. All right. That's number 2. Number 3, you better have a defense with an adjusted net yards per passing attempt number less than 6. Really, I mean, technically, you can have it maybe at 6.1929, whatever. But if you want to increase your odds, especially with an offense that might not be lighting it up with a 8.0 or 7.8 adjusted net yards per passing attempt, you better make sure that defense is under 6. And I'm talking, 5.7, 5.8, along the lines of the number last year. And right now, it is. I mean, you hold Josh Allen to a 5.07 number, whatever it was, that's nothing that you sneeze at. Now, it was a 1-week sample here. So once again, I understand people are excited. Keep sending us emails with that excitement in there, but to ask us to make observations off of 1 game or 2 games, I mean, it's kind of unfair to us, I think, to predict out. Let's get to week 4, week 5 and see what this team is doing, and then maybe hit us with more of those, are you ready to change what you said, questions, right?
Yeah, you just want to be careful not riding that roller coaster of they beat the Bills week 1, we're all excited, potential Super Bowl, and let's say hypothetically they lose to the Raiders on Sunday, then we're back to, this team's bad and they can't win games they should win, and you just don't want to ride those highs and lows of the season. You want to be steady and just kind of look at things in chunks with a better sample size. So great start, absolutely fantastic win, super excited about that. It's a promising sign, but it is just 1 game.
Look, we try to balance this thing out, and evidently, I guess we're not doing a good enough job, Alex, because we get a lot of people say, boy, you hate the Steelers and all like that. I mean, we are a totally different show. We go into the X's and O's more than any other show out there. We understand the game more than probably most others out there, specifically when it comes to the Steelers. We try to go inside. We try to look at both sides of this thing. We try try to do so as objective as possible. We will praise when praise needs to be had. We will say someone played bad when someone played bad. This show's not for everybody, especially in season, right?
Yeah, I think we're just trying to be as honest, as fair as possible. We all have our own biases we try to fight through and things like that, but I like to think we call a spade a spade.
Absolutely, and sometimes the spade ends up being a club, and that club hits us over the head like it did this past week with the Steelers versus the Bills. So, yes, we make mistakes. We get bad reads on things as well too. It doesn't always turn out like we think, but we try to give you as good of an educated look as possible. All right. I guess that's apologies. I don't know, but probably not a great way to end the show there. But in the meantime, we will be back on Friday talking more about Steelers versus Raiders. Who knows? We might both even predict the Steelers to win the game this week. But in the meantime, follow me on the Twitter machine if you dare at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and you think we do it fairly and you think we do it better than anybody else, if you want to donate to the cause, go to SteelersDepot.com, hit the donate button, upper right navigational bar. Also, if you'd like an ad-free version of the site, go to SteelersDepot.com, hit the ad-free button, upper right navigational bar for $25 for 1 calendar year. You can have an ad-free version of the site. Go hit Vinny up on the Twitter machine. Tell him you appreciate him being on and appreciate his analysis early in the show, if you will. That'll help Alex and I as well, too. Go to iTunes and leave a comment there, good or bad, I guess, about the show. That'll help us out maybe as well, too. In the meantime, as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.